How you all doing? Who do we got in here today? My friends. Welcome. Hey, Mr. Baker, Kevin Love, how you doing? Jennifer Nagel, how you doing? Mr. Starr, good to see you. What's going on in Tampa? Noel, my friend, it's good to see you. Mr. Burt, love you, man.
I like Tampa. Give me a roll call on some of these cities. Where's everybody at?
Where's everybody at? All right, we got some people in New Orleans, Austin, Texas, Las Vegas, Dunedin, Florida. Oof, got a few people, a few Steelers, a few Pittsburgh people.
How about that?
Oh, my man Dwayne from London. What's going on? Ween, how you doing from Providence? Hey, Mr. Miles, we're from Detroit. We're from Detroit. Mr. Murphy, how you doing? Long time no see. Mark DeVasto, I was thinking about you today when that J-Nug was tanking. I had this feeling that you were just sitting there watching and knowing and predicting it. Mr. Patel, the Poconos. Hey, we have one of our good students, Oscar. He lives in the Poconos. I'll have to hook you up with him. Miles, my man, how you doing from Maryland? What's going on? Hey, guys, it is a pleasure to have you guys. I am super excited to do this because, well, first of all, I've done hundreds of these webinars for you guys over the years, and we've always had the same type of focus, We talk about chart patterns and how much money I made or what I did wrong or what I did right. And I think what happens sometimes is, when you see that stuff, that's like the end result of something. But there's all this work that goes on way before I get to that point where I can show you these cool trades I've made or these strategies that I do. And that part is what I work on with Ben. I've known Ben now for a little bit over a year. We've been working with each other, and I brought Ben on and contacted him for a very, very certain reason, because this is something I knew with my students, and I found out with myself, is that trading is 5% to 10% strategy. Once you know it and you have it, you know what to do, right? Just like in football or basketball, you have your game plan, but it doesn't mean your game plan actually turns out the way you want, right? There's always audibles and things that happen to get in your way, but most importantly, you have to go out and execute what it is that you want to do and what it is that you want to get every single day. And just talking with all my students and just seeing my own life from my business, how I teach people, and also how I trade, I realized that, there was something missing there. That trading is so much strategy, but then the rest of it is that mental part of wrapping your head around to how to get yourself into, peak performance. How do you make yourself resilient? How do you get yourself tough? And that's where, I needed Ben. I'd seen Ben on YouTube and Instagram and, all over the place. And I've been watching his videos, and he's got this playbook on his website, and I was doing it all. And I said, man, I've got to work, with this man because, I've gotten to a certain level that I'm happy with, but I'm not where I want. I'm not the best of who I can be. I felt like here I am operating in really 25% capacity of what my potential is, but also where my goals are. And so I had actually emailed Ben, and he told me he wasn't taking on any more students. And so I emailed him back. I said, I need you to do this. And he said, well, I'm really busy. I don't even work with traders. And I was explaining to him that trading is no different than really becoming a doctor, a lawyer, or an athlete. It's about skill development. You're like an Olympic athlete. You have to go in, and of course there's that technical aspect of building your skill level and the repetitions that go into it, but that last edge that gets you over the hump, that makes you a champion, what is that? That's your own brain, right? That's your own toughness, your own performance, and that's where I needed Ben. And he turned me down, and then he tried to get me to work with one of his other coaches. I said, no, I just need to work with you. And finally, he agreed. And guess what? We've had a year-long relationship, and, it's never something like you work with somebody and it just happens overnight. I'm literally retraining and reframing my brain from things that I've been doing for 30-something years. And now it's awesome because we're starting to see some of these things, change. How I react to certain situations. How I even anticipate certain situations knowing I'll react that way. And we're really starting to reframe how I look at things. And it's been awesome because, this year in trading, I've reached some new levels of consistency, but also in how I, deal with my own employees, how I coach people. All of this stuff comes into play. Ben, why don't you give us a little background on what you do and how you do it, and we'll get this party started.
Well, first off, thank you very much. It's so exciting to be here with you, sharing this stage with everybody all over the world, literally from London, the Poconos, everywhere, New Orleans. So I love hearing that. Pittsburgh, Detroit, we're both Michigan State Spartans. So if our Detroit guy is a Wolverine, we might be in trouble. We might lose him. But, I appreciate Cannell so much because he is so relentless. And I love that word relentless. And I want each and every single one of you think about that word for you in your life. How relentless are you with the things that are important? How relentless are you with the process and the execution that will drive you to be your best? And, that's one of the things I love about Cannell is he is so disciplined. He is so relentless. And he's right. I did turn him down. I was completely booked to capacity with coaching. And I'll tell you, when somebody's that relentless, they've got that much energy, that much passion, it was easy for me to say, I've got to work with this guy too. And we've built a great relationship. And this is a special opportunity to now share some of the things that we have utilized in his coaching that are impacting his growth that he's bringing to all of you. And they impact my growth. Because I think that's one thing that's important, whether you read a bio that was sent about me or if you look me up online. Bios always highlight the significant things that have happened. But I believe my opportunity to be with all of you is a direct result of the number of times I've been knocked down in my life. I'm talking about shaken to the core personally, shaken to the core professionally. Periods of time where I was on that mat of life, laid out, wondering what do I need to do and why would I even want to get up when I'm feeling the way that I feel. And what I have found in my work with Cannell, because it was the first trader that I've worked with, even though I had 10 plus years operating, working, and performing within an investment team in the investment and insurance world, I've been able to find how the principles that he and I have used in his life that impact you and impact him are the same principles that we utilize in our work with professional athletes in many, many sports, whether it be UFC. One of our fighters, his name is Tyron Woodley, fights for the world title on July 30th, so make sure you guys check out Tyron Woodley as he takes that championship belt, all the way to impacting Super Bowl championships or NCAA championships. It's the same tools. And that's what amazes me, is that sometimes it's the simple things that come down to execution, what you think about, and how you respond that'll be the difference. And I always like to say, and then I'm going to turn it back to Cannell, your success, it's not just about changing your habits, it's about changing the way that you think. And it's one of the things that I love in working, having a new relationship with all of you, working with Cannell, working with athletes, other business professionals, is diving into that thinking component. Because each and every single one of you could share with us, if we were doing a one-on-one coaching session, periods of time when you've been successful. What did those habits look like? Having the opportunity to continue to want to improve with your mental toughness, just like I still have a coach, I'm still trying to get better with it. That's our opportunity to achieve that peak performance.
And guys, this is, just so huge because there is trading, in our boot camp and everything, we're talking about stocks, and you can be the master of stocks, right? You can go on. But if you're not operating at that peak level, you're going to fail, right? Getting that mindset to keep you out of trouble is the key to everything. I text Ben all the time. Me and Ben have this rule. If I experience some trading stress, we know, like, if I'm stressed or I'm experiencing trading stress during the day, it's going to lead to losses. Whether it's from actual trading or something that's going on in my life, it always leads to losses because stress makes you make mistakes. And so, we have this rule. It's like if I'm feeling stressed, I have to text Ben. And Ben just pumps me up and gives me some motivational things. He'll tell me to reframe what I'm doing, to walk away, and go on with your day. And then I come back and I'm trading better because what I found out is that mistakes begat more mistakes. And that's with anything in life or business. One mistake ends up getting covered up with another mistake that gets covered up with another mistake. And it's that never-ending cycle. It's a spin cycle, the spin cycle of despair, right?
Let me politely interject, and then I'm going to turn it right back over to you, because what Cannell's referring to, it's called expectancy theory. So it's a psychology principle. That which you focus on expands. When we focus on negative, if I focus on something that's negative, negativity grows. When we focus on the positive, positivity grows. So just think about it. Think about the last car that you bought, right? You saw a car, you loved the car, you went out, you buy the car. What do you start seeing on the road all the time? The car that you just bought, right? The things that you pull into your existence are the things that you pay attention to. If you pay attention to negative, you're going to get more negative. So that's one of the things we want you to pull away from our time together tonight, is the importance of staying focused on the positive, even in those periods of time when you're knocked down.
And guys, this is huge. No matter who you are, whether you have $1 million or $1, right? You're always faced with something. And I do this with Ben all the time to this day. He'll be like, "Hey, how's your day going?" I'm like, "Oh my God, this guy is after me." Like, I could be dealing with my competition. I'm like, "Oh my God, this guy's doing everything better than me, smarter than me. I just did it the other day. He's younger than me." And I used to be the young guy on the block. And he's just like, "Cannell, think about it in a different way." He's like, "You have all this experience. You have this, you have that. What are you going to do to overcome it?" Or, I'll be like, he's like, and it's my natural reaction because that's just sometimes how I'm wired a little bit. I'm trying to change it, right? "How was your day?" "Oh my God, one of my employees, he's driving me nuts. Like, he's asking for this and that and this and that." And he goes, let's reframe this in a particular way and think about this. The guy's highly motivated. He wants to get more involved. He's asking for these types of things because he wants more responsibility. That's a good thing. You want employees like that. I'm like, "Oh my God, you're right." It's just the way you sometimes look at things. That expectancy theory is just so important because once you have the devil in your brain, that's all you think about, right? It's just the darkness creeps in. And so that's something me and Ben, we work on every day. But here are a few techniques that Ben has taught me to really become mentally tough. Because I'll tell you, from just working with thousands of students, the 10 best students that come to my mind, the one thing that they all have that I find really interesting, because they all come from different backgrounds. It's not really about education or, did your mommy treat you right, or do you have daddy problem, or did you do this in college or that. The one thing that I did notice about all these guys is resiliency. They are so resilient, meaning they have a bad trade, they can forget about it. It's like, a cornerback getting burned for a touchdown. You got to forget about it. They have a bad day, they can forget about it. They lose this or that, they can get past it. They're very, very resilient because, in the end, in trading or in business, right, it's a 100% fact that you are going to get knocked down, and you're going to get knocked down a lot. But it's totally under your control whether you get back up and the attitude that you show when you actually do. Are you ready to roll? And so these are some of the things that me and Ben work out. But, one of the first things that, me and him have talked about when we got together was, number one is, being honest with ourselves. And this is so true in business too. It's so tempting to lie about not just others, but ourselves, about our performance. Whether it's wins or losses or whether we're doing the work, that's a huge, huge thing. When Ben asked me, "How did my day go?" I mean, sometimes because he's like my mentor, I want to be like, "Yeah, well, it was great." But then that doesn't do us any good, right? It's like, I have to fess up and be like, "Dude, I lost a boatload of money today." Or, "Dude, I exploded on one of my employees and now I feel terrible about it," right? But being honest with yourself is the first thing. Like, are you really doing what you need to do to be great? You know, are you gearing yourself for greatness, or are you just kind of passing through time? You know, every day, and I don't know, Ben, you have any techniques for this, but, you know, every day when I look at things like, and I plan my next day, it's, how did I do? You know, and it's not just a dollars and cents thing, but how did I do? Did I get the things done that I know I need to be done for a successful day? So I have 10 things that I have to get done if I'm going to have a good day, which is going to turn into a good week, which turns into a good month, and turns into a good year. You know, Ben calls it his prize fighter day.
Yeah, so I think this is great. You know what? It's a shift in Connell's mindset. What he's talking about is now measuring wins and losses based upon his effort every day and staying focused on the things he can control. Each and every single one of you watching, you can control on a daily basis your attitude, your effort, and your belief. Those three things are 100% in your control. If you understand that, and then you pay attention to the daily disciplines that have driven success for you in the past, and you put your best effort into those disciplines, you'll drive more success. Our natural tendency is to focus on the results that we can't control. For each and every single one of you trading, you have no control over how much money you will make tomorrow. You didn't have control over how much money that you made today and what those results ended up being. You can't control the markets, but you can control the level of focus that you have. If something goes down, you can't cause it to go back up, but you can stay focused and stay within your game plan and execute and do the things that are necessary to stay on track to cause results in the future. And that speaks to resiliency. And I think for each and every single one of you, where I want to start is we dive into this importance of being honest with yourself. And I appreciate Connell's transparency, because that's so important. Being transparent and being honest about where you are. It also comes down to understanding your purpose. It's one of the first things we talked about. I said, Connell, why do you want to grow your business? Why do you want to continue to work with students? What's your purpose? And it's his passion. It's his desire to want to help grow others, to see the things that he's seen in his life that has impacted him. Why does he throw the boot camps? Because the boot camps help other individuals write their own success stories in their lives. That's so critical to understand the purpose, because the purpose and the vision causes applied pressure for you to take action. I learned about purpose from my mom, and I'm going to share something briefly. We don't have enough time tonight for me to really dive into all of my personal story, but I want to share with you where I learned about purpose, because when you understand your purpose, purpose will overtake pain. And I'm going to hit you dead square in between the eyes, very politely, not very hard, and you're not really going to feel it. You're going to feel it emotionally, but not physically, because I learned the importance of mental toughness from my mom. I learned what it's like to get knocked down from my mother. And I'm going to forewarn you, a little disclaimer, I'm an emotional guy. Had days when I hear the success stories of how somebody got to the opportunity to compete on American Ninja Warrior, I'm like crying these days, right? I love seeing these people and hearing their stories. So my emotional connection is from my mom. My mother battled a rare muscle disease called amyloidosis. At the time of her diagnosis, there were 2 hospitals in the United States treating the disease, the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota and the Boston Medical Center. My mother's doctors chose Boston. Her first trip to Boston, she was told she was only the second woman under 40 years old they'd ever seen or heard of having the disease, and they gave her 2 to 4 years to live. My mother was a teacher. My mother was divorced when I was 6 months old. I never knew my parents together. And my mother was dying from this disease, amyloidosis. Yet every day, my mother took out an old blue Mead notebook, and she opened it up, and it became a journal where she unleashed her positive mental attitude onto the world. Right? She was honest with herself about having to be positive, honest about where she was at, but she stayed connected to her purpose. She would write, beat the statistics, beat the odds, live with a disease that is chronic and fatal, believe in yourself, combat anything, purpose in life. So that's why I want to start there is, what is your purpose? What's your why? Because even though my mother on November 2nd, 1986, took the pen that she was writing with in that journal and passed it on to my brother and I to continue to write the story of her legacy, because she hasn't been with us for almost 30 years, my mother taught me about purpose. My mother taught me about conviction. My mother taught me about passion. And she taught me what it means to stay positive and to get up on those days that you just don't want to. And everything you need is already inside of you. But to bring it out every day, you got to start by connecting to your purpose and the reason why you want to do it. Cannell's done an unbelievable job of that, and that's why he brings his passion and his energy to these webinars and the boot camps and the leadership of his teams and his willingness and his desire to want to get better, to lead his teams better.
So, and that's a huge thing. So, you know, one of the things that Ben has me do is it's part of my prize fighter day of these 10 things I need to do. And one of them is to read my purpose statement twice a day, one in the morning and then one in the middle of the day. Because when things get tough, or when you're like, holy crap, I don't know what's going on, my head is spinning, right? Going back to why you're doing something, right? Why am I up 18 hours? Like for a lot of you guys, you have kids, you have a job, then you're trying to learn how to trade. That's a whole nother job that requires 4 or 5 hours a day. Like, why are you going to sit in class and watch somebody like me talk about all these squiggly lines, right? You have a lot of stuff going on that you're trying to fit in. And so when it becomes overwhelming, when you just sort of like, I just can't do this, or you're just getting distracted, you know, going back to your purpose statement of why you're doing this. Like, why is it that you're getting up and literally grinding it out when there's other things you could be doing? It's so huge because it takes you back to the real reasons, right? You know, most people don't get into just trading stocks or get into business just because they want to make money, right? That's a byproduct of a whole lot of things. Most people are getting into something because there's a whole story behind it. So like for me, like my purpose to me, the one I sent to Ben is, you know, like my purpose is to provide opportunity for my students, my employees, and my family, to be a leader in my community, someone that always does the right thing and gives people his best and makes an impact on every single person that comes across his way. I'll be the best mentor coach in my industry that builds people not just in finance, but also in life, taking these young or old men and women and helping them become their best of themselves. You know, that's my purpose statement, you know. And so going back, you know, when I get a guy like Mark DeVasto, you know, he's come here and stayed for 3-4 weeks at my house and drive me crazy sometimes. And sometimes when he drives me crazy, I read my purpose statement. Like, Mark, it's driving me crazy, man. But eat my food for 3 weeks and drive me crazy. And then I read my purpose statement. I'm like, man, I love this guy so much. Because, right, I'm doing this for a very specific reason. You know, I'm in my mid-30s now. I could be doing a lot of stuff. I could be relaxing a little bit, right? I could be raising some children. But here I am, right, housing some of these people in my house and doing these boot camps, and for a very specific reason, that this is part of what my purpose is. And so I think that's just a huge thing. So that's going to also help you become honest with yourself, because you can't be honest with yourself if you don't really know why you need to be, why you're doing all this. You know, one of the things that I think that's really important for some of you traders to do, and it's really helped me, and I do this to this day, is talking to somebody else that's another trader or that's in your field. And it can be of somebody of any experience.
Yeah, don't do it alone. You don't have to do it alone.
Any experience. You know, it doesn't matter. 6 years ago, when I started Bulls on Wall Street, I sat on G-Chat with Mary Beth all day. And we just chatted. We were trading, and we had a rule. If one person takes a trade, we put it into G-Chat, and then the other person plays devil's advocate. And what it would do is it just allowed us to really look at things from another perspective of saying, this is what I'm doing, and this is why I'm doing it. And then we would critique each other, because it's really important to speak honestly about it. And then we would put our profit and loss and all this stuff. And this is way before people had all these screen shares and all this stuff. It's so easy to do. You know, we're sitting there on AOL Instant Messenger doing this. And it was important because it's so easy to have the desire to embellish or exaggerate yourself to make yourself look good, right? Hey, how's your day? It was great, right? Nobody wants to say, hey, how's your day? And be like, it fucking sucks.
So, hold on. So, see, that is such a critical piece that Cannell just brought up, right? That's our natural tendency. We want to tell everybody everything's great, but to have that trusted confidant, whether it's a coach, somebody else who's in the trading game with you, but being honest and sharing, you know what, I'm not feeling good right now. Is there anything that you've done in the past to help you when you're feeling this way, and understanding there's techniques, there's things that you can do that can break you out of the natural mindset of the natural mold so that you can start to make different decisions and think differently the way that Cannell's alluding to.
And then the second part is, when you do talk to somebody, it's the desire. Sometimes you just want to unload and be like, and beat yourself up and wallow in your pessimism, which is awesome because you got to get that out of the way. But, as Ben tells me, is always, you got to reframe this. So, okay, you got it out of the way. Your day sucked. Okay, what's next? How do you get past it? What are the steps you're going to take to make sure this doesn't happen again? Because it's one thing to make a mistake, but it's another thing to make a mistake 10 times in a row, which is something that we work on, all the time. Because sometimes, even with me, it's always, don't do this thing again. We've already talked about this. Let's make some new mistakes. So,
one thing I want to mention real quick before we transition, because I think this is important so people recognize they can work on these things too. I mean, how powerful is it to hear Cannell read his purpose statement? Well, everybody has the opportunity, so you can get a free copy of this book. So Cannell mentioned it earlier. So there's going to be a link here that they're going to provide. But if everybody goes to freeplaybook.net, freeplaybook.net, I'm not here to sell you these tools. Literally, you can get these tools for free so that you can work on your purpose statement. Because it's very important for us in our time together today that we have some actionable takeaways for you, right? It's not just, there's the playbook right there, that there's actionable takeaways that you can have from our time together. This playbook will give you those actionable takeaways. Just you being on this webinar and us saying that the playbook exists, that's not enough. It's about your choice to want to create a purpose statement for yourself. Fight through attaining belief in yourself, which is that truth piece. And then I know we're going to transition a little deeper into reframing and process, but all of these tools are here for you, and you guys can get it for free.
So guys, this playbook is pretty awesome because when I hired Ben, and I pay him monthly, I'm thinking he's just going to give me everything and, we're going to do this. He goes, first thing you have me do, he goes, go on this website, download this thing, fill it all out, send it to me, then we talk. And the playbook is the structure, the foundation of everything that we work on even 1 year later. And so this playbook will give you a very, very solid foundation into really getting your mind right, but also figuring out who you are, what you want to do, and why you're doing it. And then how to go out and actually get it, 1 year, and I think now we've been working together for like 1 year and 2 months. Everything is still based off really our original writing in this playbook because those things don't change. My purpose doesn't change just because it's been 8 months later.
All right, so I have got to share this story, and Cannell's going to like this story, having grown up in Detroit, and this is so, so important, everybody. So in 1989, the Detroit Pistons beat the Chicago Bulls in the NBA Finals. Cannell, I'm sure you remember that. And the Pistons at that point in time, they were known as the Bad Boys. And they were known as the Bad Boys because they were beating up Michael Jordan on the basketball court. They found out how to get into Michael Jordan's head, and Michael Jordan had yet to break through in order to have a first championship. So it was a period of time where he was exposed emotionally and physically, and in terms of championships, hadn't won them yet. There was a guy by the name of Tim Grover who does performance coaching just like I do with professional athletes. He doesn't work with business professionals like I do, but he just solely did athletes. And he had a meeting with Michael Jordan. And they sat in Michael Jordan's house. If you can picture this, they're in Michael Jordan's apartment. He's in his house. They've just lost the NBA Finals. Tim Grover's on one couch, Michael Jordan on another couch. And Michael Jordan looks at Tim Grover and says, "So how are you going to help me?" And this was like Tim Grover's dream opportunity, right? You're sitting in Michael Jordan's house. And Tim Grover says, "So what are you doing every day, Michael?" And they broke down the process. They talked about the goals and the vision that Michael wanted. Remember, vision is applied pressure. When you understand where you want to go, then we can pull it down and figure out what you need to do every day. So they have this conversation, all process related, right? Just like Cannell's talking about. And they identified what Michael Jordan needed to do every day. And Michael Jordan says, "That's it? That's all you've got for me?" He says, "That's too good to be true." And Tim Grover says, "That's it, Michael. Taking the areas where you've already been successful and having a commitment to improving a little bit every single day in all those areas, staying focused on solutions rather than problems, and attacking that process every day, just giving a little bit more, a little bit more. Michael Jordan looks at Tim Grover and says, I'll give you 30 days. Tim Grover stayed with Michael Jordan for 15 years. When Michael Jordan retired, he called Tim Grover on the phone and said, and the reason why he said this was because for 15 years, just like Cannell said, here we are a year and 2 months later, we're talking about a lot of the same things, but it's the continued improvement in the same daily disciplines, the accountability. Because they talked about the same things, focused on the same things for 15 years, Michael Jordan called him and said, if I ever see you in my neighborhood again, I will shoot you. And then the moral of the story is Michael Jordan was like, my goodness, but that's what it took. It was that accountability that probably drove him crazy some days. Just like Cunell knows when we have a phone call, I'm going to ask him, how's your prize fighter day going? How's the process going? And there's probably days where he wants to reach through that phone and say, God, I do not want to hear the words prize fighter day today. But it was that accountability that drove 6 championships for Michael Jordan. It was that accountability that already having being recognized as one of the greatest athletes in the world, greatest basketball player in the world, one of the greatest jumpers in the world, after Michael Jordan started working with Tim Grover, his vertical jump increased by 12 inches. So the question I have, and it's a question I have to ask myself all the time, if Michael Jordan, for 15 years, was committed to trying to get a little bit better every day, why can't I try to get a little bit better every day? Why can't Cunell try to get a little bit better every day? And if for each and every single one of you watching this, if we walk away with proven tools that you can use and a new commitment and a new relentless desire to focus on solutions, not problems, and a commitment to getting better every single day, I don't care if you're trading, training for a marathon, or running a business, you will drive more success in your life just like Michael Jordan.
Jordan's the man.
You only say that because the Pistons got him in 1989.
He was. I mean, the Pistons, they could have won a couple more before then. They had a little bad luck. Guys, so let's talk into the next plan, all right? So, you know, we talk about business plans all the time as students, right? And so the same thing goes with your mental toughness playbook, right? Which is one of the key factors for this attaining belief in yourself and establishing truth, which is the one that we want to focus in on, which is number 5. Create a plan based on the truth, right? Don't expect things to be perfect right away. You can't simply flip a switch and have a new life. Old behaviors and mindsets often come back into your realm. This is, for me, the biggest problem. I'm so stubborn. Like, it's like the old Cunell will come out all the time because it's just who I've been for so long. But with this in mind, define how do you want to live your life from now on. So you've got to write all this down. So one of the most important things that we talk about, especially with my trading, is reframing. Because trading is so tough. You need to process a ton of information quickly, right? In terms of managing your positions, looking for new opportunities. But in trading, you're taking an infinite number of variables that are happening in the market, and then you have to identify, dissect, and make a decision within a second, right? It's a millisecond. That's how day trading works. So this leads to one of the most common problems I see struggling traders make, which is falling into that pit of despair as they focus on all the things that they're doing wrong. You're going to make tons of mistakes as a trader. And you will also encounter a lot of strategies that work, but that just don't work for you. You know, so many of my students approach me and say, I love all the setups except this or that. I kept trying so hard to make it work, but I always lose. Well, guess what? That's okay. You know, instead of focusing on that negativity and what's not working, right, reframe this in a positive response. You know, this is the number one thing that Ben tells me every day is, you know, we talk about what's happening in my business more than really just trading. It's trading, business, coaching my own students. And anytime I have a problem, he says, well, let's reframe this in a proper way and take a look at it and see what you think. And anytime I have a problem, all I really see in the end, if I reframe it properly, is an opportunity. Ben, kind of fill us in on where you got this into my head.
So I learned this from, we'll go back to my mom. And, you know, for me, my mother helped provide the perspective in my life for me to be able to continue to fight no matter how tough things seem. Now, I appreciate you guys listening. It probably wasn't what you expected hearing about the loss of my mother and struggling from a rare disease. But I recognize that each and every single one of you, you have a story. You have tough things that you've been through in your life that will help provide perspective for you, that if your trading day isn't going the way that you anticipate, you can reframe and say, this is not nearly as bad as what I've been through in my life. And I can choose to stay positive right now because this is in my control, and this is a short period of time. This is not my long-term success. It's a short period of time. My mother used to get phone calls, and this is where I really learned the power to reframe, from Dr. Skinner at the Boston Medical Center. They'd call her and they'd say, Janet, you need to come to Boston. We're going to increase your medications. You're going to have to wear jope stockings around your legs to control the swelling. You're going to have to wear a mask just to be able to go outside. And you need to come to Boston immediately to go through these procedures. My mother would hang up the telephone and pick it right back up and contact her boyfriend, Alan. And she'd say, Alan, I don't care about the medications. I don't care about jope stockings. I don't care about masks. We are taking the boys on a family trip, and we will have positive memories from this experience together. And guess what I remember? I remember my mother taking me to Chinatown because my brother and I like Chinese food. I remember my mom taking us to the Candlestick Bowling Alley because we liked bowling. I had positive memories. I remember laughing. I remember my mother's smile because my mother, when she hung up that telephone and picked it back up, that was her teaching me to reframe. That was her showing me through her actions, stay focused on solutions, not problems. She could have easily focused on the negativity, taken her mind to a bad place, allowed my brother and I to not see a smile, not to see her energy. But I remember when I was 5 years old, sitting at the Candlestick Bowling Alley, and my mother said, let's play hangman. We pull out a piece of paper, I draw the little hangman board, you put your little lines down, and my mother guessed my word before she even guessed a letter. Now, given I was 5 years old, I probably knew like 10 words at the time, right? But I literally, I'm sitting there, and that's what I remember. So see, my mother was focused on the positivity, and now what do I remember almost 30 years later, 32 years later? That's what I remember is her positivity. So it's the same for you. Think of a period of time. This is all in the playbook. It's all right here on the slide. Think of a period of time where something adverse happened. How did you respond? Now go back to that period of time. What would the solution have looked like? What if you would have said, okay, in this day, I have a game plan. If I execute these steps with highs and lows in the market, if I stay focused on what I can control and I execute the game plan, the results are going to be the results, but I can stay focused. Instead, we go to that negative place. We get angry. We lose our focus, which is in our control, and one decision feeds another bad decision, which feeds another bad decision, which leads to negative results. Reframe it. Stay in that focus state of mind. Continue to execute the game plan, and that's an easy positive action step where that's your ability to reframe to stay focused on solutions rather than allowing that problem to get bigger.
Boom. That's probably, I would say that's the number one thing that we work on, all the time, because it is so easy to get down, right? It's like that's the easiest thing to do is to vent or get pissed. I always find it for me too, is I'm a talker. It's like somebody asks me something, I got to tell them everything. And it's the easiest thing to do, and it's the main, one of the always things that we were working on. It's like, let's reframe this, man. There's always an opportunity in any of this. So this one is huge because I find for myself, I'm a results-oriented person. Like, I like to win. Like, I fucking love to win. Like, that's just what I like to do. Like, I like to step on the necks of my enemies and win. Like, that's what I like to do. And when I started working with Ben, it was like everything that we talked about at the beginning was about wins and losses. I made this much money. I lost this much money. Hey, this person pissed me off, but I got one over on him or whatever, right? But it was always how much money I made, how many sales I got, how much of this I got. And it was just because I like to win. And one of the things that Ben really taught me was, look, if you want to win every day, then it has nothing to do with how much money you made or what happened in this or what happened in that, because that's your end result of probably 100 little things that went into it beforehand. And we started talking a lot about the passion for the process, because, I'm telling him, like, I want to make more money. That's why I want to. He says, that has nothing to do with anything. I mean, we all became traders to make money, but that's not the only goal, but that's also the end result of a lot of different things. One of the things that we're always talking about is the process. It's, it's your purpose, it's your passion, and then it's your process. The process over results is huge, because now I know, like, say I have a good day. I may have a good day or a bad day, but how I judge my good days, did I get my prize fighter day done, right? Did I do my scans? Did I spend time reviewing my trades? Did I call my mother? That's actually part of one of my prize fighter days, because I love her, right? But there's all these little things that go into it, and we know, like, I have literally on my iPhone, like, just a thing, you just check them off, and it's like, when I have them done, no matter what, if I made money or lost money, if I have those 10 things checked off, it was a good day. It became not about the money, because one of the things that we did was we backtracked it. Okay, how do you make $1 million? Well, oh, you make $1 million. Well, no. There's all these little things that you have to do every day that lead to a good week. And all these things you have to do every week to lead to a good month. And all these things you have to do every month that leads to a good year. And if you start doing them all of a sudden, I have $1 million. And so it all starts with these small steps that I have to do every day. From the moment I wake up, that's part of my process. And when I'm missing something or I'm not hitting my goals, now it's about looking into my process to see where I'm missing. Where can I fine-tune things to start leading back to getting me on the way? But we fine-tune this thing so much now. It's, if I hit these things, I'm going to have $1 million, but that's a year down the road. But in between that, it's just process, and then I'm going to have what I want to have. I can't control my results. I can't control the outcomes of anything. But what I can control is my output, how I attack things with purpose, with my passion, but most importantly, how I respect the process of what I have to do every single day to get where I want to go. Fill us in on the process here, because this was the game changer for me in the end. Was it's not about how much money I made at the end of the day, because that's just the end result of months to years worth of things that I was doing beforehand.
So this is a major takeaway I would love for everybody to have tonight. It's taking the time after tonight to do what Cannell is talking about, and it's to identify your process. We've worked very hard to identify his process. Tim Grover with Michael Jordan, they identified his process. It led to championships. Cannell, we identified his process. It's led to growth. But if you paid attention, I believe you said it 3 times if we were to watch this back. 3 different times Cannell was alluding to breaking down his game film. So because I work with so many athletes, I always call it breaking down the game film. He talked about going back and evaluating his trades from that day. Why does he do that? Because it's totally in his control. And in the event that he made a decision that he doesn't want to repeat again, the only way he understands why that decision played out the way that he did was if he slows down to figure out why did that happen, so I can actually alter my process so it's different, or I make sure that I don't repeat the same mistake. So process is a combination of 2 things. Number 1, it's identifying the behaviors that will drive consistent success. But number 2, consistently evaluating why things happened the way that they did and having that desire to want to improve. I shared the stage on March the 6th with Ray Lewis. For those of you who don't know who Ray Lewis is, greatest linebacker to ever play the game in the NFL. He won 2 Super Bowls. He was a Super Bowl MVP. And when I shared the stage with Ray, before we went into this big ballroom at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, Ray shared with Will Compton from the Redskins, a player that I mentor, that the difference for Ray in his career was early on when he started breaking down his own game film, accepting responsibility for where he was, and he found that he was playing 4 yards off the line of scrimmage. And he was sharing with us, from 4 yards off the line, I was nasty, right? 4 yards off from where the play starts. He said, but by breaking down my own game film, I realized that if I moved up to 3 yards, they wouldn't know what to do with me. And the NFL didn't know what to do with Ray Lewis. And it led to him being the greatest linebacker to ever play the game. So if you want to improve, you got to understand it's the process, but it's also breaking down that game film. So you got to ask yourself, what if I go try to find my 1 yard? What would you find? If you were to break down your game film after this webinar tonight, go back to maybe the best day that you had, the best week that you had, you would be able to identify the process that has driven past success for you. And if you repeated that process over and over and over and over and over again, that's the strongest indicator you have, and it's the one thing you have control over. It's your effort every day. It's I'm going to do it on Monday, then Tuesday, then Wednesday, then Thursday, then Friday, and I'm coming back when those markets open on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. It's that grit. It's that passion. It's that determination, and it's that willingness to have that repetitious, monotonous behavior of the same thing over and over and over again, because that is the process that drives your success. And when you start to measure your effort creates the wins, not the amount of money that you make. You will make more money. Ray Lewis is a proven story of it. Kuhnel's a proven story of it. Michael Jordan's a proven story of it. I can share with you, and I say this humbly, I still in my life have to attack the process every day. Our business continues to grow because our team works their tails off by attacking the process every day. And I'll share one more process-oriented thing with you, because I think this is important for you to understand. And once again, I don't share these things to impress you. It's to impress upon the point that these tools that are in the playbook, they've led to growth for Kuhnel. They will lead to growth for you. How do I know it? Because they've led to championships, whether it be in a boardroom or on athletic fields with the individuals that we work with. I shared earlier, Tyron Woodley fights for the world title in the welterweight division in the UFC 2 weeks from now. Next Saturday night, July the 30th. And I can share with you right now, this is the national championship ring from my work with the North Dakota State Bison this year. The North Dakota State Bison are the only football team in the history of college football at any level to win 5 straight national championships. And guess what this team focuses on every single day? Attacking the process. They gave me this ring as a result of my work as the performance coach for this football team. What this ring symbolizes to me, yes, it's a championship, but it's more than that. It's their commitment to the process every single day. And when we were live on ESPN after that final whistle blew, and we had beat Jacksonville State on January 9th of this year in the national championship, we're live on ESPN. The players are up on the stage. The confetti's coming down. And the announcer from ESPN took the microphone and put it right in Coach Kleiman's face. And they said to Coach Kleiman, you guys have been through so much adversity and challenge this year. You lost the first game of the season. Your star quarterback, Carson Wentz, who, side note, got drafted number 2 by the Philadelphia Eagles. If we got anybody from Philly, Carson's going to be an incredible player. But you lost Carson Wentz, arguably the greatest quarterback in all of college football. How did you guys do it this year? And Coach Kleiman, with that microphone right in his face, said, every day we attacked the process. Every day we attacked the process. I know this is the difference for you. This is not one of those things where Kuhnel said, all right, I need you to get on this webinar, come up with like some new ideas that you think will help. These are proven ideas that have worked time and time and time again. But it's going to take time for you to break down the game film and to say, what has worked in the past? What's my purpose? What does it mean for me to reframe? How will it impact me to have a prize fighter day? My point is, you guys have to take the tools and take the information and figure out what's going to help you design the plan that you can attack every day to get bigger and better results in your life.
guys, this is really important because if you're not data dependent, then there's no way to help yourself. Meaning, say you go to me and you say, hey, I am having trouble trading. I say, well, what's wrong? And you say, well, I don't know, I'm feeling like this, or I'm feeling a little bit like this, a little bit like this. Sometimes this happens. Well, that doesn't show anything. You can't focus on that. You can't even help that because there's nothing in the process to refine. As traders, if you're not data dependent, meaning you're not logging your trades, you're not reviewing your trades, you're not taking your journal and sitting there and going, what did I do on this? Is this an A plus, a B plus, a C plus, and how do I fix it? Then there's nowhere for you to go because there are very few traders that make it a long time that just trade on intuition, that just trade on their gut, and they say, hey, I'm going to wing it. You know, no matter who you see, whether it's Tom Brady or some great trader, and you say, hey, what is your percentages for this type of play? Well, I trade flag patterns like I think I trade them good. No, how much do you win on them? I don't know. Okay, I can't help you, but you can't help yourself. You don't know where you're good at, where your strength's at. As traders, when somebody asks you, what's your go-to setup? What's your go-to move? What's your go-to move? If you don't have one, then you don't have a career yet. You don't have a methodology, and you definitely are not going to be able to be profitable. As traders, the most important thing you can do is have total control over all of your data. What time of the day do you trade well? What time of the day do you not trade well? When the market's up, do you do good? Or when the market's down, do you do good? What are the patterns that you work at, right? This is how you start fine-tuning what you do and start narrowing down where your expertise is so that you can accentuate it. You know, in trading, it is very, very important to be the master of one thing or two things. But being a generalist, I'm proficient at all of these different things. I'm proficient in options and futures and this pattern and that pattern. Those people that are proficient at something, meaning they're just good enough, they don't make it to the pros. They don't make it to the big game. You have to be the master of everything. And so in trading, how you have to do this is literally take it down to a tactical level. Every single aspect of this type of trade or this type of pattern, I have to know it down to the level of detail, microscopic detail. That way, what happens is when something messes up or you're having mishaps in your trading, you can look at your process for that type of trade and you can look at your data and say, this is where I screwed up. This is what I got to fix, right? You can literally narrow it down. On Sundays, I look through my trades with Mary Beth, and we look at my P&L, and then we start backtracking. Where did I do good? Where did I do wrong? And the first thing that she'll always say is, did you see that? I'm like, wow. Because she's got an engineering degree. She sees all the angles of my data. It's like, look, you think you had a bad week, but if you took out this one thing, you traded 20 different patterns, you took out this one thing, you would have made $20,000. Instead, you're basically up $1,000 or $2,000 or flat. It's just one thing because I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, man, that was a bad week. She goes, no, no, no. Let's dig this down. Look, take out this one thing and you've had a huge week. You're not good at this. So let's cut it out. And that becomes really, really important. That's where the data comes back in. It's analytics, right? It's analytics of trading, analytics of life. You have to be able to come in and narrow that down, you know. And so as traders, you know, focusing on those processes rather than results is really important, right? Your pattern recognition, your risk management, you know, journaling your trades every day and seeing how closely you can adhere to your stop losses and your position sizes. And then, of course, your focus. Are you sticking to your game plan, right? I have a game plan written out. Can you actually stick to it, or do you just go and wander off? You know, that's one of the things that gets me all the time. Like, I spend hours building my game plan, and then the market opens, and it's the big game, and you veer off your game plan. And it's like, then at the end of the day, like, oh my God, this turned into a disaster. And then you look at your game plan, and it would have worked out perfectly, right? Can you actually execute what you put together? You know, so this is just a huge aspect of really, really supercharging your performance. Ben, do you have any ideas on or any thoughts on really how these guys can keep track of their data, or you know what they should be doing, whether it's from actually the data of their trades or their feelings, or you know whatever they might need to do to really kind of focus in on getting better?
Yeah, I think to go through the playbook and to really break down and to identify your processes, what you can control, and then run a 7-day test. And really what it comes down to is your commitment to choosing to be intentional, right? If you create a process, then you have an opportunity to be intentional with that process. The most successful individuals I've worked with in business and sports, they drive their daily behaviors. They're intentional with their daily behaviors, and they execute a game plan. So as Kunal is mentioning, on Sundays, they'll break down with Mary Beth all the trades. What went well, what didn't. You got to ask yourself, are you doing that right now? Maybe that's one of those tactical examples of maybe on Sundays, start evaluating your trades. Create the process. Once you create the process, run a 7-day test. At the end of the 7 days, it goes back to where we started today. Be truthful with yourself. What worked? What are the areas for improvement? What can you do to stay solution-oriented? And what can you do to change the process to attack on a whole nother level? It's that consistent evaluation, breaking down the game film, and driving of that intentional behavior and the execution of the process that will continue to drive growth.
Guys, this is a huge thing. I want you to just kind of think about this in a way when you're thinking about your own results. You know, I've been trading now for half my life, since college. Half my life. This is my life's passion. This is what I do. And yet, I break down my film on Sundays. I talk to Ben every day. We're in communication via text or phone every single day. You know, I'm working with Mary Beth. I'm still to this day trying to fine-tune my trading. You know, when we talk to Ben, that's one of the first things he asks me is, how's the trading going? Because he knows that impacts the rest of my life. You know, to this day, all these years later, I'm still working on it harder than I did when I was 18. I didn't know anything. You know, at 35 years old, I'm putting in more work, more detail, more passion, more attention to the process than I ever did before. And so when you're looking at your results and you're thinking about whether you're getting it or whether you're hitting your goals, I mean, know that there are people out there that are literally doing every single thing they can to get better. And so you got to be really honest with yourself. Say, man, am I really attacking this in the way that I need to attack this? Because being wealthy or being successful or being happy or being a good trader, it doesn't just come from doing it, right? There's people doing all sorts of stuff. It literally comes from, are you doing every single thing you can to get where you need to go? So now you have these tools to actually get there and get where you need to go. But what are you going to do tomorrow, right? What are you going to do tonight? Fuck tomorrow. What are you going to do tonight? I can sit down and download your playbook and start really thinking about it. Are you going to go down and write down your purpose? Are you going to start write down your perfect day? These are things that will not take long, but you have to do them, right? You put it off for a week. Well, guess what that tells me? You're not that serious, right? But I'll tell you what, when this webinar is done, I'll be working. I'm going to be doing what I have to do. Probably I'll be shooting a text to Ben, be like, what do I got to do to get ready for tomorrow? You know, but that's what it really takes. You know, there's no such thing as like just being casual with something or something being a hobby or I like doing it, and that turns into being the best at it or being a master at it or having expertise at it. The only way to gain expertise and to gain that competence to actually go out and make money from something or be really good at something is to literally grind it out and do exactly what you're supposed to do and then hit it as hard as you can. I mean, there's no other way I've seen around it. Like, I have a lot of different interests in things like real estate and stuff like that. And you know how good I am at any of that stuff? None. Because you can't do it as a hobby and then all of a sudden you're just like, hey, I'm making money off of this. You know, it does not work that way. You know, you've got to go out and do the work, but you've got to go out and literally attack it every single day And that's the only way. And if you're not doing that, you got to be honest with yourself. Say, fuck, I am not putting in the work that these old men are doing. And then you got to go out and do it, right? And, you know, that's something that you have to look into yourself. I've had tons of students over the years, and we talk about it. We laugh about it sometimes, like, man, this might not be for you. He's like, yeah, man, it's a lot more work than I thought. No problem, man. Well, guess what? You know, you could still take some of these tools and invest in your 401k or your IRA, but if you're trying to make money and be the best at something, there's only one way to really do this. At least that's been proven over and over and over. And, you know, that's some of the stuff that me and Ben are always talking about. He said, Canal, just because, you know, you have a certain level of success does not mean that you're anywhere yet. It doesn't mean anything, you know, till you get where you want to go. And so I think that's really, really huge. So Ben, you know, I have his information here. You guys got to follow him on Instagram and Twitter and the Snapper. Ben is probably the oldest guy besides DJ Khaled that actually Snapchats. But he's on it, and he's pumping people up all day. I'm going to have to get on it too now, just so I have somebody to chat with.
Hey, hold on, real quick. I want to mention something so that it doesn't get away. I would love for you guys to stay connected and to follow me, and here's why. It doesn't cost you anything to do it. Doesn't cost you anything to do it, but it's a way for you on a daily basis to stay connected to the mindset that will drive your success. Because I've found in my work all over the world that 99% of people are waiting for greatness to go on sale. They want to put it on a credit card. They want it at a discount. It does not come at a discount. You don't have to do it alone. You got to choose to stay positive. Here are ways that you can do it by staying connected. And I look forward to the opportunity to stay with all of you. And Snapchat, I'm telling you, I have a blast on Snapchat because you get all the behind the scenes. You guys will get behind the scenes at Tyron Woodley's weigh-in for his fight. I'll be at three NFL training camps, the Redskins, the Jaguars, and the Bears, all before August the 9th. So come have some fun on Snapchat, and I'll bring you this positive energy all the time.
Hey, Ben, I mean, I know you probably don't take as many people working one-on-one, but you did mention you're going to be doing some group coaching type stuff. Give us an idea what that, when you're launching this, or what that entails.
So we actually, people can check that out at iwantgroupcoaching.com, and it's really just a way for individuals who, you know, right now maybe you're not in a space where having a one-on-one coach is actually something that's available for you, right? But at iwantgroupcoaching.com, it's a way for you to stay connected, to be able to drive that monthly accountability so that if you go through the playbook, you then get that positive energy, those reminders for you to have the ability to keep things going to go to that next level.
Awesome. And Ben will be heavily involved in a lot of things that we do with our boot camp, and we're trying to come up with a program for our students, and so we can get a little bit of this hot heat for our students and get their minds right, because you know, we spent so much time thinking about what a stock is and what's a good stock, bad stock, so on and so forth, but this part is also so important. Guys, we start class in 6 days, Bulls on Wall Street boot camp. As you guys know, I teach these classes live. I'm on this webinar Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 8 p.m. There's only, you know, a certain amount of certainties in life, right? It's God, taxes, death, and the fact that Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'll be teaching class, lighten it up. Guys, I teach these things live because, well, frankly, you can't learn anything off a bunch of recordings, at least not something that's going to last you a lifetime. My students get lifetime access to my classes. I have students that are in this webinar even right now that I met 4 or 5 years ago that have been to my house, have been on vacation with me, and they still show up for class. It's just a part of their process. We have a course book that's 140 pages that's got everything that's literally inside my brain in this book. We have a private discussion group for our students, a Q&A after every class. And then the best part about really our class that's a little bit different than, you know, a lot of the stuff that people do is that once class is done and you have all this book knowledge, you know, we put our students on simulators, you know, where they go out and actually test the stuff that they're going to be doing in real life, because why throw a bunch of money until you've actually fine-tuned your game plan, your methodology. And so we put the students on simulators. They can use it for longer than a month if they need to. That's totally cool. We have made this university-style setting. I mean, interactive quizzes, homework. You're going to be able to work with your students, work with your peers. But then, most importantly, once all of this stuff is done, you're going to watch me trade on screen share every day, right? So I'm on the screen share. I got my trading platform up, and I'm showing everybody what I do, and I'm calling them out. And that's one of the best ways to kind of connect the dots here, right? It's one thing to read something in a book and be like, okay, this is what it is. It's in a book. It's another thing to actually see it. See somebody go out and do it, right? See somebody go out and make or lose some money. After I'm done trading, we have market recap sessions where we talk about what I did right or what I did wrong. Like today, I made money. So we talk about all these trades I took and how I made money, why I made money, how I found the trades. We reverse engineer. Day before, guess what? I lost money. And we got to talk about it. This is why I screwed up. This is what I did wrong. This is how I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen again. And now we are starting to really get into the mind of a trader, because this is the stuff that you're going to have to go through to actually do this. Let me tell you something. Trading is awesome. It is the hottest game in town. It is the passion of my life, but it is fucking hard. I mean, it will take everything you have and then more to actually get good at it. But you surround yourself with the right tools, the right people, there is actual chances to learn it and practice it, and then actually see how you react in the big game when the lights are turned on. Right? How do you do with money? That's the huge part. So we start class in 6 days. You can email Mary Beth, and she will get you everything that you need. We have payment plans and all that fun stuff. Let me open this thing. Brent, you got a few minutes for some questions? There's some really good questions here. And,
sure.
We'll get this thing started. All right. Mr. Burt, how you doing, sir? Mr. Burt is mentioning, many times I start off down in my trading day. Sometimes I go back in and refuse to take the loss, but most time I can get back to being flat for the day. So you essentially say I'm down a couple $100, but I get back to zero. Should I take that as a win or fight to make my daily goal? So that's actually good. Let me answer this first, because it's in the trading side of things. So, Mr. Burke, my thinking is always, as long as you're making good decisions and taking good trades, there's no problem with actually going. But what happens is, if you're starting to let your decision-making slip because you've had already 4 or 5 good decisions or 4 or 5 good trades, and you find yourself getting lax or taking something that you normally shouldn't be taking, well, now that's when you're supposed to be cutting. But look, there's streaks in everything, hot streaks. And if you're actually doing good things the right way at the right time, and you're just methodically doing it, and yeah, you can keep it up, well, that's a lot different than, should I keep going because I'm hot? As long as you're making those decisions, I have no problem with you keeping going. What I know is that the human brain usually makes 4 or 5 good decisions in trading, and then they get a little bit lax, you get a little bit lazy, you let yourself go, right? I've been dating her for a couple of years, I get a little fat, right? That's where we don't need to be going, is we don't want to get a little fat, right? We want to be sharp, and as long as we're sharp, we can keep going. But if we're not, hey, consider it a victory that you were negative and you got back to zero. Ben, any thoughts on something like that? How do you know when to stop?
Yeah, I think it's a simple answer. I think you put those stop gaps in place. You figure out how much pressure are you willing to take in a day, but then having the willingness to ask yourself at the end of the day, and this is what Kunal was talking about. You break down that game film and say, based upon my performance today, what can I improve tomorrow? Right? Based upon my performance today, what can I improve tomorrow? So it doesn't make you a loser because you had a bad day. It just means you had a bad day. You got to go back and attack tomorrow with positivity, a strong state of focus, and a sense of where you need to improve.
Yeah, having a losing day really doesn't mean anything. I mean, right? You're going to live 20,000 days in your life.
That's right.
Bargav. Okay. So Bargav is saying, a lot of times he's up for the day, and then he ends up losing. So today he was up $600 and lost 600. So how do you fight stubbornness rather than relying on hope? So there's the hopium, that people have when they're dealing with money, right? I hope this can happen, or I hope blah, blah, blah could happen, right? You're praying for rain. How do you get out of those scenarios?
Well, it sounds familiar. We've had this conversation before, haven't we, Canal? So, it's really one of those things where, you have to figure out, like I said, what is the amount of pressure that you want to take on? From a result standpoint, if the execution reaches a point where, okay, $1,000 a day is my limit, I'm up, then it's putting that stopgap in place. Is it somebody from an accountability standpoint? Is it something where you have that personal accountability with yourself where you say that's it? It's not because I'm up 1,000, I think I'm going to be up 25,000 at the end of the day. It's understanding your thresholds so that what doesn't happen is that when you're up 1,000, which from a result standpoint, and there's going to be results, right? But you execute the game plan, it produces a result, and you let it go away because you lose focus. And if the execution part of your game plan is not continuing when you're past 1,000, well, then you're probably going to stop at 1,000.
Cool. So actually, a few people have asked us, "Hey, Christo, how you doing?" They're suggesting, do you suggest trading small share size or bigger share size when you're getting started? So my personal belief is you start trading small, right? You have to earn the right to be a millionaire or a thousandaire or 10,000aire, right? You don't just go in just because you have some money and trade as big as you want, because there's the mental side of things. What happens is, it's about technique, strategy, process. And so you want to numb yourself to the emotions of that type of stuff, meaning, okay, I want to trade the same way I do with 10 shares as I would 10,000 shares. Well, guess what? That's not really logical, right? Because 10,000 shares, something moves 10 cents, it's $1,000 in your P&L. But how you get there is you start off with the 10 shares and then you say, you know what? I did good at 10, I'm going to go to 20. I did good at 20, I'm going to go to 50. I did good at 50, I'm going to go to 100. I go to 100, I'm going to go to 200. And so it may take you months to even get to 200 or 300. It may take you years to get to 10,000. But you will get there if you ease yourself into it by focusing on the process and actually building up good habits. And then what happens is when you trade 10,000 shares, it really won't feel that different when you trade 100 shares. Like recently, because it's summer and I've been traveling, I lowered how much I trade with every single day just because I've been traveling. And, 2 months ago I was trading 10,000 shares, everything. Right now I'm trading 1,000 shares, and guess what? It feels the same. And when I go back to 10,000, it'll feel the same because I'm just focused on the actual trade because I stepped myself up, over time. That way it's not about the P&L, right? It's just about the actual trade.
We get one more question?
Yeah, Jesse says, did you ever want to give up? How long before you changed, and what was the tipping point?
So for me, I'll talk about this not from a trading standpoint, but a life standpoint. So many times that I've wanted to give up. So many times because I was knocked down. There was a period in 2010 where the company that I was working for, I was a financial advisor, and I was running both businesses, my speaking and my coaching practice that I've been running since 2006, and being part of this wealth management team. And it was like day after day just getting beaten up and beaten up and beaten up. And it was that period of time where I had people come into my life that truly cared about me. They coached me, they brought me onto their team, and they helped me realize you have to reframe too. Right? So just because I'm the coach and the speaker doesn't mean that bad stuff doesn't happen. I get knocked down all the time, but it's the choice to rise up. And my mother taught me the greatest life lesson I've ever learned from anybody. It's not how long you live, it's how you choose to live your life. So on those bad days, you got to choose to get back up. You got to choose to stay positive, even when you just don't want to do it.
Hey, Ben, a couple of people have asked me about the biological, since you work with a lot of athletes. What are the biological elements, such as sleep, nutrition, exercise, meditation? Any advice on this type of stuff?
Yeah, so a couple of things. You guys will see in the playbook there's what's called your prize fighter day morning. So waking up and having a solid morning routine is so important. I used to be the guy who I'd wake up at 6:30 if I had to be at the office at 7:30 because I could hit the snooze button 3 times. And then I'd be sweating, like just trying to get to the office and praying for green lights, right? And then I recognized when I pulled my time back, it gave me the opportunity to do the things in the morning that made me feel good, to get a good breakfast. My family uses a meal prep company called Fit Flavors, right? It manages my nutrition, make sure I get the right foods into my body. I work out. Why do I work out? Because it releases my endorphins. It makes me feel better about myself. I'm more confident. I read books. I read all of the statements that Kunal is mentioning. I read those every day too. So it's important to feed your mind positivity, to recognize that food is your fuel, that's your nutrition, which gives you your energy, especially when you have to be intentional with your focus with something like trading. High levels of intentional focus over sometimes long periods of time. Nutrition will help with your focus. Working out will provide more energy. So yes, biologically, those things are very, very important for your performance.
Cool. Hey, Ben, can you kind of self-coach yourself with the playbook, or do you have to have a coach? You know, a lot of people don't obviously have the money. They don't have the means like I would be like, let me track somebody down. Like for me, it's like, right, I read a book I don't understand, I call the author.
Yep. So, or yeah, and then you send them emails until they say, yes, I will work with you and I'll be excited to work with you. So here's a couple of different things. So you can, I've had many people just download the playbook and I will get messages on Instagram, or people will send me Snapchats and they'll say, wow, this has really helped. Those are people that have done it by themselves. But a couple of things that we have put in place for those who don't have the capital to invest in it. Now we have the group coaching program. It's $50 a month. With the discount code, it's $50 a month. So $50 a month is not a lot of money to invest in coaching. If that does not work for you and that's out of your budget, inside the playbook there is a link where you can buy videos, 2 hours of content of me teaching the principles in the playbook, and all you have to do is go online and make a donation in honor of my mother to the Boston Medical Center. So that's whatever dollar amount works for you, we will accept. So we are here to help people get to the next level. I recognize that people are at different points in their life, and that's why we meet people where they are.
All right. One last question, Ben. I know we've been taking up a lot of time. Do you listen to any positive speeches, or, I mean, do you prime yourself in the morning? You know, Tony Robbins calls it priming. And by the way, you got to watch this Netflix documentary, because I was watching it, and my roommate Chris like, dude, it's like Ben, how Ben talks to you. I'm like, yes. Tony, he's just a 65-year-old version of Ben. I'm like, Ben,
that's right. I'm the 37-year-old Tony Robbins. So, hey, look, I'll be the future for Tony Robbins, and that's one of the things that I think about. But no, so I love Tony Robbins. My mentor is a guy by the name of John Gordon, New York Times bestselling author. He stretches me. He motivates me. Dr. Jason Selk, that's my performance coach. So there's
Toughness. I've read it.
Yeah, there you go. So, you know, those are things. That's my coach. John Gordon is my mentor. You know, I had the opportunity to share the stage with Tony Robbins and Lewis Howes and all these guys. Well, guess what? I watch their videos. Why? Because it motivates me. I'm not done growing. You know, here I am in Phoenix today. I'm actually coming to you guys from my hotel room. Just because I'm going to be with Quicken Loans tomorrow, and I'm going to be just firing up their people, firing up their leaders, firing up their bankers. You think that doesn't mean I have to work on me? No, I will be tuned into motivation tomorrow morning. I'll be tuned into things that fire me up. I'll be tuned into getting into an ideal state of focus the same way that you can to start your day to trade and have the best day ever tomorrow and build on it from there.
All right. My friends, thank you. Mr. Newman, thank you, man. I love you, man.
Hey, love you too, brother. Love you too, and thank you so much to be with all you.
I really appreciate you doing this. We've never done anything like this. I think it was pretty cool. The feedback already coming in is awesome. So, guys, email me if you have any questions or anything like that. Make sure to follow Ben. You guys can feel free to email me anytime. You know the drill. I'm always around. I'm a late sleeper. I'm not an early riser like Ben. Not anymore. Man, Ben wakes up. He sends me these motivational text messages like 3:45 in the morning. I'm like, my phone wakes up and I'm like, oh my God, he's awake. I'm like, I just went to bed. But it's awesome. He's an early riser. Thank you, sir, for doing this. I really appreciate it. Guys,
Thank you all. Thank you all.
go make it happen. Download that playbook. Get to work. You know, there's no time to waste. It is 9:20 Eastern time. Guess what? Tomorrow's a new day. You can have a whole new game plan coming in by the time you wake up ready to trade tomorrow. I mean, that's how it works. It all starts with what? A decision and then a little bit of work.
Identify the process, attack the process, and go do great things.
Take care, guys.